Leonida, the GTA 6 map, is a diverse amalgamation of Florida and several other southern states. Rockstar has shown us several interesting areas of the map, while still keeping some areas of the map hidden from us. And of course, I can only talk about the areas that we know about. So here's everything we know about the GTA 6 map. This video is a compilation of some of my previous videos, with the first part of the video being completely new content. So don't get confused if you start seeing things about 20 minutes into the video that you have seen before on my channel. And also, don't get confused if some parts of the video use older versions of the GTA 6 community map, as I can't bother to update everything from this video to be up to date. My name is Saukko, and I'm a part of the GTA 6 mapping project. I have helped in the creation of the GTA 6 community map, and I have learned a lot of things about the GTA 6 map while helping with the creation of the community map. Let's start the video from Vice City, and more specifically from Venetian Islands. We saw this area in the leaks, but the best view we have into this area is this trailer one scene. The camera is located here, looking towards the west. Venetian Islands is the real life name of this islands, and the in-game name is unknown. Rockstar has excluded some of the islands and compressed some of the ones in-game to be smaller. These islands are basically full of mansions, apart from 1000 Venetian Way, Venetian Isle apartments, and Venetian Isle condos, from next to which this screenshot is taken, facing towards the west. This area has a lot of unique mansions, however, unfortunately, Rockstar has duplicated some of the mansions with slight changes. For example, 212 Deleted Drive can be seen in at least 2 locations, and the same with 205 East San Marino Drive. It's seen at least twice in different locations, and possibly even more. And the 3 islands in game are based on the Biscayne Island, San Marino Island, and San Marco Island, and the order of them has been changed. And they have taken some buildings from Dilido Island, however the island itself is not in the game. And the drawbridge here, which we also see in this scene, is based on the East Venetian Causeway Bridge. The final scene of trailer 2 takes place here, looking towards the west, and here are all of the known buildings from Venetian Islands from real life. Then this is the Flagler Memorial Monument, and the island it sits on. We do see it in this artwork, however it has been moved away from its actual location in the artwork. This is why artworks shouldn't be completely trusted. Then we have the real life Star Island, which was called Starfish Island in Vice City. We can see parts of the island here, and we can kinda see the Star Island Water Tower and 35 East Star Island Drive. Then here we have Fisher Islands. They can kinda be seen here, and it seems to be they are a copy of the real life versions. In real life, this island is a Coast Guard base, which there is no actual in-game proof for yet. And this island has a ferry terminal with an electricity substation on it. Then Watson Island, which we can see best from this scene, but also from other scenes. This island has the Jungle Island petting zoo, as we can see this spire and the gift shop. In real life, this zoo has capybaras, sloths, flamingos, and other animals. Then of course there's a marina here. Then here's the deck, which is a restaurant, and in-game there's a fictional small cargo terminal here. And then in the middle of the island, there's an entrance to a tunnel which leads to the port of Vice City. The western end of the port is full of cruise terminals, and we have been able to identify 6 of them. And of course, there's soon to be cruise ships at these terminals. We still don't know if these cruise ships move or if they are stationary props. And the east side is the cargo port, which has several cargo cranes and cargo ships. And there's one leak that takes place here, which shows us a partial minimap of the ports. Then Fisher Island. We can see this island in one scene and 2 screenshots. Firstly, this scene from trailer 1, we can see some of the buildings here on the island. And in this screenshot, we can see the island basically just as a mush in the background. And then we can see some buildings from there in this screenshot up here. But it's there where it is in real life. Almost everything on the island is speculative, and we don't know much about the island itself. Then on the left in this scene, we have Virginia Key. Firstly, this structure is a radio beacon meant to guide aircraft landing and flying out of the international airport. And here we should have the Virginia Key water treatment plant. From it we can see these 2 balls and these 3 silos. And then on Virginia Key we can also see the Miami Marine Stadium, which in real life is currently in ruins. And the road connects to Catalan Key, on which a league takes place in which we see a tennis stadium. And then there's a road from Catalan Key, which eventually connects to Key Lento. And then we have Teguesta Key, which is basically a one-to-one copy of the real life Brickell Key. Teguesta Key is only missing 1 or 2 major buildings compared to the real life version. Our best look into the key is this plane scene. and we can see the buildings of the key from several other angles. And then here on the south side of Catalan Key, we have Stillsville, which did appear in the original GTA Vice City and is visible in this screenshot. And then onto the mainland. This arena is the Sahara Arena, which is the in-game version of the Kaseya Center. This is the home stadium of Miami Heat, which in-game is called the Vice City Narcos. And Sahara, of course, is a parody of Amazon, because you know, big desert, big jungle. And here we have Bayside, which possibly is called Bayfront in-game. Bayside Marketplace wraps around the marina, and of course the Hard Rock Cafe is on the marina. And at the end of the pier, we have the observation wheel, which was actually set up in 2018 and wasn't featured in the 2022 leaks, so they were only added after that. Here we have FPL Solar Amphitheater, at which a leak takes place. And then of course most of Bayfront Park is copied to be in the game. And then we have about 50 skyscrapers in downtown and Teguesta. Well, first, we have Marquis Miami, 10 Museum Park, and the Marina Blue. Then here's the Wilkie Ferguson Courthouse, and on the north side of it should be the clubs that appear in Trailer 1 and Trailer 2. This here is a data center, and here is Road Building, which is an administrative building. Then here are the Viscane condos, then the county courthouse, and the parking garage for it. Then here's the loft downtown too, through which there is actually a metro rail. And then next to it there is this Art Deco building. Then in this area, we have a bunch of buildings from this scene, and these buildings are basically in the same place in real life, apart from the road to the port being in a different location in real life. And then this building is the Bank of America's financial center. And the yellow line you can see going through the downtown is the Miami Metro Mover, which in-game is the Metro Mule. Technically it's just a bus on a bridge, but people call it a metro. And the government center station should be here, which is the transfer station in between the Metro Rail and the Metro Mover. Here we have Flagler on the river, and here we have the Miami Tower. And these buildings here are once again from this scene. And this cluster of skyscrapers is basically a one-to-one copy of the real cluster in the same location. Here is the Met 1 and Epic Miami, and the river dividing Teguesta and downtown is likely called the Vice River, and Brickell Avenue drawbridge crosses the river. Then on the south side, this is the Icon Brickell. This trailer 1 scene takes place here, and we see these two buildings in it. Then this building is the Neovertica, which was actually identified because of this shadow. And then this is the latitude on the river. Then we have 600 and 701 Brickell Avenues, the 4 Ambassadors, Brickell Arch, Mary Brickell. Then this area has a lot of buildings seen here in this scene. And then this scene takes place here, and unfortunately this Santander Bank has been demolished in real life. And then this area has a lot of buildings from this area from real life, with Four Seasons Miami being in the middle and being the tallest building in Vice City. Then on the right side of this scene, we have Peacock Bay, which is based on the real life Coconut Grove. And these 8 tall buildings are based on these 8 tall buildings from Coconut Grove. Then here we have some marina buildings, and this is the Miami City Hall. Then south of Peacock Bay, we have Gables Estates. In real life, this area is full of super expensive properties. Basically everything coming close to 100 million. And we know that this scene takes place on this real life road, and it's facing north, as we can see Peacock Bay on the background. Then let's jump to Little Cuba, which is inspired by parts of Little Havana. Here we have Tuscan Place apartments, and here we have Saint John Bosco Catholic Church, and next to it we have Oster Tire. This area is based on the leak, which takes place at the airport metro right here. So this metro and train station is based on the real one at Miami Airport. It has both a proper train station and a metro rail station, and there's a small connecting metro line from the station to the airport terminals. Then this area is actually slightly weird, as a building located here is actually from north of Opa-locka, over 5 miles north of the real life airport. Then these buildings appear to be part of the airport in this area in real life. And then of course we have the airport. Rockstar has moved the ATC tower from the west side of the airport to the airport terminals, so that it's more central, as we don't actually have the Saturn runway, which is there in real life. Of course we have all the normal terminal stuff here, and we have hangars on the north side, and these appear to be cargo terminals, and the fire and rescue station is here, just like in real life. And then on the west side we have the Vice City sign, which isn't there actually in real life. It's only seen in a few movies. And then there's actually water here, as a leak takes place on it. This is probably one of the retention ponds west west of Miami. Also, it appears that there are only 2 runways on Vice City International Airport, unlike in real life, where there are 2 parallel runways up on the north, and in-game there's just 1. And then on the north side, there are some airport hotels. And here, south of the airport, there is actually a lake here, which looks like it's on someone's backyard. So this area is most likely suburban. And here we have a radio or a TV tower. I'm not actually sure anymore because it has changed several times. And it's extremely tall, so it's visible in several scenes. And I think it can be seen here in Jason's glasses. And then we have the prison where Lucia is locked up. This prison is actually based on the New River Correctional Institute, which is next to the Florida State Prison in northern Florida. So they have moved the prison all the way south. And these scenes take place on the south side of the prison. And then this building here in the background is actually right next to the Homestead Water Tower, which is here. And then we have Hamlet, which in real life is Homestead. And like basically all I can say about it is that they have taken a lot of buildings from the Homestead main street. There's a gas station here, which is actually based on Chevron Florida City, which in real life is on the road that leads to Everglades and Flamingo. And then this area is Gator Doors, which I think was a construction company at some point. And here we have the Dry Tortugas National Park headquarters. And Hamlet is basically based on only one lake, but we also do see some of the buildings from far away, like in this screenshot or this scene. And then east of Hamlet we have the Turkey Point power plant, which is a nuclear power plant located in the southeast of Florida, so basically where it is in game. And then let's just fit some Leonard County or Wayne Sang stuff in between here. So Leonard County is the county north of Visedale County. It has its own separate police force and is based on the real life Broward County. We have 2 scenes from there. Firstly, this trailer 1 scene, which takes place here at the gas station, and we haven't been able to identify the gas station yet. But this scene takes place at an elevated location, based on the buildings we see in the background. And then this area is still probably very wrong. It's based on this scene, and here on the background we can see Sailboat Cay and the building next to it, Keystone Harbor Club condos. There is a gas station here, and these poles seem to be netting around a baseball field. Then here on the left, we actually have an identified neighborhood, which is located in Broward County. And some of the buildings we see here must be ones on this cul-de-sac. And then the mall on the right side appears to be based in the Cooper City Commons, which is a strip mall. And the mall sign is just a random mall sign. And the closest identification for it is actually from California. And then this building here is Velapator South Broward, which is basically just a trash burning facility. It's very close to Ambrosia, but technically it will probably be part of Leonard County. And then of course the coastline north of Vice City appears to be like this, according to some of the leaks. Now it's time for the northern areas of Vice City, which include Stockyard, Rock Ridge, La Perle, and a few other smaller areas. And of course, I'm only gonna talk about the known areas of the north and northwest, so mostly only the mapped areas. And of course, we don't know how far the city extends to the west or north, so this grey area is just an estimate. So, let's start the documentation from the Rockstar website. The first thing they mention about the area is the return of Little Cuba from the previous GTA Vice City, and that the area has some good bakeries. And then they mentioned the Tisavoca Flea Market, which is based on the Opaloka Flea Market. We actually don't know where this place is, but we can assume it's somewhere northwest of the known areas of Vice City, as there are some buildings here which are from close to Opaloka in real life. Let's just start going through the different areas on the map. First, up here in the north, we have a confirmed neighborhood with a few known buildings. On the northern side of in-game Route 10 and real life US 195, there's the Miami Design District, which is still unnamed in-game. However, it's probably gonna be something like Vice Design District or Bohemia, as that's kind of arts related. The most prominent building we have from there is the City View parking garage, as we see it from several angles in the leaks and here in trailer 1. Then this construction site is based on 123 Northeast 36th Street, which looked like this in 2015 when it was under construction. This building too we see well in the leaks and here in trailer 1. Then here we have an interchange, which is basically a copy of a real one on I-195. Even this gas station is the same. Well, actually it got demolished in real life, but in game it's a wrong gas station because the real life version was a shell. Then the causeway to the east is actually just this island, and then this bridge is actually this bridge, which is way much more north than the previous interchange, interstate and causeway we were talking about. So they have moved moved that bridge further south. And again we only see it in the leaks. This empty gap is actually slightly weird, because I think that on the current map, the highway is slightly too much north, and we are missing only like one block in between this area. So of course this area is not empty. But this is Stockyard, which is based on the real neighborhood of Vinewood. This area is full of murals and artistic graffiti. This trailer 1 scene takes place here, and the buildings surrounding it are basically just vibrant storefronts. And all of them basically come from this area of Miami. And probably the most important and interesting building of these is Vinewood Walls, which in real life is basically an art exhibit, and in game it looks like some kind of hangout location. And here we have a high-rise building, which is about 6 to 7 to 8 floors tall and has big square black windows. This is a concrete plant, which probably extends under the highway to here, as this too is a concrete plant. And the interesting thing about it is that it in real life is located in Alapata, from where we don't have any other buildings from. And the map itself here is accurate, because we have mini-maps of the area from the leaks. That's why this area has many of those grey paths. This artwork seems to take place somewhere around here, in the backlot of the real-life Vinewood Walls. And this container art seems to be based on this one, which was set up recently. So it has been added after the leaks, possibly even after trailer 1. However, this art piece isn't actually in Vinewood, so they could have also based it on this one, which is basically at the edge of Vinewood. And these two murals behind Raul have actually been made by real people, and the artists are Aiko and Sonni. I actually use GTA Wiki as a research tool for many of my videos, and a lot of my discoveries, like the creators of these artworks, get added to the GTA Wiki. And if you didn't know, GTA Wiki recently transferred to a new address away from fandom, because fandom is bad. So from now on, if you're trying to look up something about GTA 6, make sure you are using the gta.wiki website and not gta.fandom.com, because again, they are money-hungry people who put random ads on everything. And of course the fandom wiki won't get updated from any upcoming news. Then, let's look at the Vice City postcard, mostly just this corner, as these buildings are here. Here on the right, we have this building, then we have these two buildings which are next to each other in real life. This one is Uptown Lofts, which is close to previously mentioned ones, and then this building is actually from downtown Miami, so they have either just moved it from there or it's a duplicated building. And then this building, which is a Crimson, appears to be under construction in-game. Most of these buildings can be seen from several leaks and also all the way from Vice Beach. And then these islands are called picnic islands, which are popular for partying in real life. Then there's this building, which is based on this one in real life, however it has been demolished. Several leaks take place around this building, so it's possible that it's a safe house at some point in the story of the game. And this here is another high-rise building. There seems to be an empty lot here, and a B&V store here, which is visible in the leaks. This area is basically full of 1 to 2 story buildings, which were visible in the TikTok leak. And then here we have this trailer 1 scene. These buildings on the northern side of the crossroad are basically just random buildings from Crosstown. Same with these on the bottom left. And the crossroads itself is this one from real life. So basically all of the buildings in this area, so Crossroad and Stockyard, are from this real life area of Miami, in between all of the highways. Additionally, of course, this scene and this screenshot take place at this crossroads. And of course, these two women are Roxy and Belux, who form the Real Diamonds duo. They are friends with Requan Priest and Booby Ike. And it seems like all of them like to hang out at Jack of Hearts, a strip club owned by Booby Ike. And as the Requan's description states, he owns only Raw Records, a recording studio, for which the duo is signed for. And it seems like the record studio is either at the Jack of Hearts or very near it, as basically all of the screenshots and scenes of Booby Ike, Reguan and Real Diamonds are from near Jack of Hearts. And we do have several scenes and leaks from inside the nightclub, and we have its minimap from the leaks too. And in the leaks, this was a location of a mission start. So Jack of Hearts will probably be a major part of the story. That also makes more likely that this building is actually a safe house, as it's close to Jack of Hearts, where we'll probably do several missions. Then outside of Jack of Hearts, there is a church here, and from this screenshot we can see that there are some residential homes here, which are in real life in the same neighborhood as the church. This is a gas station, and this is an apartment block, which is basically this one. However, there are several similar ones here in real life, so we haven't been able to identify it accurately. Then, let's finish everything north of the I-404. Firstly, this trailer 2 scene takes place here. And this is the station we see in the scene. It's based on the school bus station, and we only see the maintenance part of the station. So this passenger area of the station is right up here above the scene. And this is this building here on the background. Then these two areas are actually open lots in game. So basically just grass or a parking lot, just like we see in this scene. Then slightly south of that we have this scene. These two are the empty lots, and here on the left we have the C. Clyde Atkins courthouse, which in real life is actually in downtown Miami. So it has been moved a bit more north. And I guess here I can mention that Vice City Police Department works in this area. So police. Then some actual skyscrapers. Of these 6 skyscrapers, all but this one are included here in the game. And of course they can be seen in several screenshots and scenes, like here, on the background here, or here. And of course the park and tennis courts, which are by them in real life, are there too in game. However, the one big thing that is different here than in real life is that in game the road going in between the buildings leads to a bridge, unlike in real life. So when you come from the Nation Islands, these buildings basically work as a gate to northern Vice City. And then these two buildings are the Grand and the Sumerian. The game has a lot of just generic skyscrapers, but I guess I need to name most, if not all of them. Then, this screenshot is actually located somewhere around here, and it's looking southeast. Here we have the Perez Art Museum, which seems to have an interior. Maybe. And these are the concert hall and the opera house. Basically 1-to-1 to real life with the addition of a metro station, which they have moved from a few hundred meters over. And here at the bottom we have this small building. And that's everything from the east side of I-97 and north side of I-404. Then, let's go to the other side of the highway, where we presumably have La Perle, which is based on the real-life Little Haiti, which in real life is north of Wynwood, so they have moved Little Haiti from the coast to inland. Additionally, Ekanfinaka, which could be based on Alapata, is also located here south of the highway, because of the cement plant and one sign we see in the leaks. Of course, these road layers are from the minimaps we saw in the leaks, but we did also see this area as a smudge, which look like small random buildings from Little Haiti. Then, this building is this building, which is along a highway in real life too. And about the highway, in the TikTok leak, we can see similar walls and carvings to these ones in this area of the game. And then here we have this scene, based on of course what we see in the background, and the fact that we can see these buildings from the TikTok leak. One thing that's interesting about these houses is that the best matches we found for them are from near Opa-locka, far away from Little Haiti. Same with these ones. These are pretty close to Opa-locka too in real life. So it seems like it's very possible that this Havoka is going to be in this general area. So Rockstar is once again compressing things a lot. Then, this building is an apartment building from Little Haiti, so you can see buildings from Opa-locka and Little Haiti very close to each other. And this building too is from Little Haiti, and we can see in the background of this scene, and some of the leaks. And this building too is from the same area IRL as the 2 previous ones were. This building is actually probably a little bit more north than it's on the current map. Then we actually have a few scenes from the trailers which we haven't been able to place on the map, which are this one and this one. Firstly, the high roller scene. This building is this one from Little Haiti, and on the background we can see a metro line. But as those are the only things we know about the scene, it's pretty hard to place on the map. It's currently placed here because on the TikTok leak we can kinda maybe see a metro line going somewhere around here, so we are just assuming that it's the same one as the one we see in this scene. And of course there's a highway here too, so we assume that that's Route 10. And then this scene appears to take place in La Perle because of the Haitian flag and because in the screenshots these two guys hang around in La Perle. And we have actually maybe identified the building behind them. And it appears to be these two buildings. So it looks like Rockstar combined them into one. The buildings are next to each other at the northern edges of Little Haiti. Most prominent features are of course the fence, this AC unit, and of course the colors. But this time we have absolutely no idea where this scene takes place in the game. Then this area of La Perle, and it's a bit complicated. Let's start with this screenshot. Firstly, the horizontal large road is based on the real life Northwest 12th Avenue. It has similar pillars and a metroway running over it. But that's the only thing here from Alapata. Then here on the left we have a few buildings from Wynwood. Why are those buildings not in Stockyard? I don't know. Ask Rockstar or something. And back here we have a tire shop from Little Haiti. Then we have this scene where Jason is driving south. The building here on the left is actually from Wynwood once again, from the same block as the buildings I just talked about. However, the artwork on it is actually from Little Haiti, which is slightly weird, I guess. And then here we have an auto shop, which was in the leaks. And we actually have only identified this building, which is in Little Haiti. However, these buildings on the south side have not been identified. And also, this screenshot takes place here. Then we move to Rock Ridge, which is based on a part of Little Havana of Miami called Riverside. Firstly, here we have the Friga Field Stadium, which is based on the real-life Lone Depot Park, and the stadium is attached to a metro station with a walk bridge. And the metro station is based on the ones on Northwest 12th Avenue. And then here we have a garage building, which is next to the stadium in real life. And this screenshot actually takes place on this garage, looking towards southeast. And then this block of buildings, also partly seen here, is based on this block of buildings near the Lone Depot Park, with a few buildings missing, of course. And then this here is a gas station. Basically, all of Rock Ridge is mapped based on the leaks. Only scenes we have from Rock Ridge are, of course, this screenshot, and scenes from inside buildings, and this one from outside a building. But these really don't tell us much about the map. So I guess I'll keep it short here. This building is Miami State Attorney's Office. This one is a cafe from next to the Lone Depot Park. This is Road Ridge Community Research Center, which is a police station in real life. And then these are Ventura Apartments, which are north of the Lone Depot Park Stadium in real life. So there are a lot of things here from near the Lone Depot Park Stadium. Several leaks take place around this area, and this Trailer 2 scene takes place outside this building here. So we can assume that some of these scenes also take place in the same building. And then there's a metro rail that runs through Rock Ridge, and then there are several river ports along the Vice River. And this area is based on minimaps, so we have been able to map so many alleys and roads there. And then Little Havana in-game extends south past the highway, and that area in-game is called Little Cuba. Vice Beach is one of the most well-known areas of the GTA 6 map. We know its outline almost perfectly, and most of the buildings and roads on it. Most of the things we know about Vice Beach are geographical, so we don't really know who lives there, or what missions take place there, or how it affects the story. Vice Beach is of course based on the real-life Miami Beach, and in-game it seems to be technically its own city, and it has its own police force. A lot of trailer scenes, leaks, screenshots, and artworks take place in Vice Beach. Well, most of them are on Ocean Beach, however, they do give us a decent image of things in the southwest and northern parts of Vice Beach. Even the website doesn't give us too much information about Vice Beach. And let's start from the south, which is actually one of the speculative areas of Vice Beach, as we actually haven't seen the southern tip, but we assume that South Point Pier and South Point Park are located there in-game. Then we have a line of high-rises edging out the southern side of the island. And this area from real life with these 5 high-rises is almost identical to the area we have in-game. In real life, these 2 towers are part of the same continuum complex, and this most unique of the towers is Portofino. Here is Murano Grande and Icon South Beach, and South Beach Marina and its piers. Then let's jump to the beach, as here is our southernmost trailer scene. This scene is facing northwest, and it gives us a decent view of the beach. These 2 buildings are these ones from real life, and Rockstar has removed some buildings from in between them. We can see a lot of the lifeguard towers, and in the background we can see more buildings and skyscrapers from northern parts of Vice Beach. We can also see this line of trees and shrubbery and bushes, which is there too in real life. Then we have 3 buildings from Ocean Drive, which we see here, and let's just go through all the buildings in Ocean Drive. Here we have Majestic and Beach Park hotels, Park Central Hotel, and then this long line of hotels and restaurants. We can actually see through a room of Park Central, which means that this cannot be a parallax interior. And many of these buildings have roof terraces. And this outdoor gym, where Jason is the Muscle Beach, Miami. And there's a human-like sculpture here on the right. Also, this artwork is located right here on the map. Then, News Cafe and Pelican Hotel should fit in this gap. Then we have Shore Park Hotel, which in-game is called Neptune, Breakwater, in-game the Broadwalk, and then the Edison Hotel. And of course, we can see in the Broadwalk. Also, this scene takes place in front of the Broadwalk Hotel, and it seems like Jason is firing into the Ocean View Hotel, which in real life is the Clevelander. Rockstar showed off this hotel several times in Trailer to the screenshots and the artworks. This screenshot is located here, facing east, and this artwork is from the roof of Ocean Drive Welcome Center. Then we have another line of hotels, Congress Hotel, which in real life is the Paramount Hotel, then Cavalier, Leslie Hotel, and Hotel Victor, which in-game is Dixon Hotel. Then the final line of hotels on Ocean Drive. We have Villa Casa Casuarina, we have Hotel Winterhaven, McAlpin Ocean Plaza, The Tides, and Hotel Cardoso. And then on the other side of the Ocean Drive, we have a public restroom. Then here we have these three buildings, which in real life are much further south. Then we have the Essex House and Jenny Hostel, Pelican Garage Parking, and Council Towers south. Then we have Fifth and Alton Parking Garage and Shopping Mall. And here is the location of this scene from trailer 1. On the foreground we can see these buildings from real life, and this building is a museum. And on the background you can see Council Towers north. Here is the Old City Hall, and down here we have the Miami or Vice Beach Police Department. These buildings are random apartment blocks south of Flamingo Park, and this is Flamingo Park itself. In real life, Flamingo Park is a great place to do sports, as it has several fields and courts for several different sports. Then on the west coast of Vice Beach, we have the Bentley Bay Condos, the Floridian, and Waverly South Beach. Here we have parking garage, and next to it we have placed a building which we actually haven't seen from the outside, which is the building this scene takes place in, as this table is this table and it's located in this building. And in real life this building is next to the parking garage, so we have placed the building there. Most of these buildings that I have been just talking about and some of the upcoming buildings are really only visible as a mush in this scene, so I'm not showing all of them in game, but just trust us, they are there. Then this area is basically a one-to-one copy of this area. However, Rockstar has removed some of the buildings. And same with these two blocks. So there's 3 commercial blocks here, which are pretty much one-to-one copies to real life. So Rockstar just took this area from Miami Beach and placed it here into Vice Beach. And this area mostly has restaurants and apartment blocks. And just like in real life, these blocks are located in between the big hotels on the east side and Flamingo Park on the west. But of course, Rockstar has removed several blocks of buildings that are not in the game. And then we have some random buildings in this area, which are near the area I just talked about. And then there are 2 parking garages in this block, and they too are near the previous area in real life. Then here on the left side, we have the Flamingo South Beach, which is a large hotel complex. Then some of the big hotels on the east side. Of course, first we have these hotels seen in this scene of trailer 1, and this screenshot, which is actually located here looking northwest. Then after Love's Miami, there's the Georgian condos, the Deco Pledge, and Ritz-Carlton South Beach. Then west of the Ritz-Carlton, there's Lincoln Road and Lincoln Road Mall. This mall is full of restaurants and luxury stores, and it goes across South Beach both in real life and in the game. Of course, Rockstar is leaving out several buildings from along the strip, but they are keeping the cool ones. Then south of the mall and north of the Flamingo Park, there's actually a community of small residential homes, some of which are pretty cute and small, which brings variety to the area. And then we have Capri South Beach, Lincoln Bay Tower, 1670 Lincoln Court, which actually has been copied to Key Lento, Lincoln Palace Condo, and some of the buildings surrounding those buildings. Then Newport Center, which is a concert hall, and the Base, which is a contemporary art museum. And that's most of the buildings we know of on South Beach, which is just this part of Miami Beach. And of course, Rockstar has massively compressed the northern part of Miami Beach. And here's the sizes of South Beaches compared. And of course, the real life South Beach is much bigger. Rockstar mostly removed suburbs and other boring areas. So, North Beach. North Beach is a lot less mapped than South Beach, as we actually have basically no scenes from there. Only this scene, which is actually looking towards South Beach. And most of North Beach is just mapped from a few frames we have from a leak that was from underground below South Beach looking up north, which was basically just random mush. And of course the tall buildings can be seen from other parts of Vice City. So we know the coast actually curves to the left, as we know the accurate locations of the skyscrapers. So, the first building we have on North Beach, well actually it could still be South Beach, but whatever, is the Y Vice City, which in real life is the W Vice City. 2 screenshots actually take place here. This basketball court is part of the hotel, and this pool and balcony are part of Y Vice City. And as we see in the leaks, at the least the lobby of this hotel is accessible on foot. So it probably is a safe house at some point in the story. And Carl seems to be living with Lucia and Jason in the hotel, as we see him playing basketball with Jason. And then opposite to it we have the Gates Hotel South Beach. Then we have a footbridge here, just right of this screenshot. And then some buildings that are next to the footbridge in real life. This building is the Meridian condos. Then there's a small park here, and next to it we have the Sunset Harbor condo, which we can see pretty well in this trailer 1 scene and this trailer 2 scene. And of course this trailer scene is located all the way here, and it looks towards the east. This gives us a pretty good view towards Vice Beach. However, it's night, so it's pretty hard to see most things. And this scene is the best official look we have into Northern Vice Beach. We can see most of the tall buildings and even some of the shorter ones. One thing that kind of irritates me is that there are billboards on Northern Vice Beach, which there are none on real Miami Beach. But these have probably been brought there from somewhere else. In the screenshot we can also see a mural here, which is based on the Welcome to Miami Beach mural. To me this orange blob looks like a skull, and everything else is pretty hard to make out. The mural and the building it's attached to is here on the map, and next to it there is this line of storefronts. And this is Tower 41. It's a large hotel on Bayshore Island in real life, where all of the other buildings on this island are from. Then just north of the Y we have a cluster of hotels. These are the Faena House, Portugal Tower, Generator Miami, and Red South Beach, and the Cadillac Hotel South Beach. Then north of those are the Sorrento and Treasure Towers, and this scene is from on top of Treasure Tower, and we can see some of the previously mentioned hotels and buildings in it. Then we have the Green and the Blue Diamonds, and then the MEI condo, which in real life is next to the buildings just north of it, which include the Bath Club, Maison Grande, Vera Beachside Villas, and 6060 Indian Creek Drive. And those buildings are this cluster of buildings. Then there's a Jade Ocean condos, which has been brought to Vice Beach from Sunny Isles Beach, which is actually north of Vice Beach in real life. Then there's a smaller Sheriff Frontenac Oceanfront Hotel, the Akoya, and we finish off the skyscrapers with Ritz-Carlton Bal Harbour. Then on the west side we have this island, which is based on 2 different locations. First, real life Pelican Harbor, which is here in real life, and Mount Sinai Medical Complex, which is here in real life. The marina, of course, besides the marina, has a cell tower, and in real life it has a small fire station, which we do see in the leaks. However, we're not sure if it's a fire station in game. And also there is a small pier used by the police to launch and store police boats. And then all of these buildings are part of the hospital complex. This is the main building, and this is a parking garage, and this building we do see in this scene here. And of course all of the buildings have been shifted around slightly compared to real life. And then there's a bridge here, which we still don't know if it's a footbridge or a bridge for cars. However, on the other side of it, we have a pretty weird island, as it's a combination of 2 locations. Firstly, the town of North Beach, which is just a neighborhood within Miami Beach, and like it's part of the main Miami Beach island, and north part of the smaller islands which are on the west side of it. And then Bay Harbor, which is the northernmost island west of Miami Beach in real life. So Rockstar moving it bit down is slightly weird, but I guess it's kinda correct. Firstly, here we have 401 Blue Hotel, which is on North Beach. Here is Granite Condo and few smaller buildings, which are actually on Bay Harbor. And then here in the middle, we have a few storefronts which are from the main street of Bay Harbor. So this island clearly takes heavy inspiration from Bay Harbor. And this building, which we probably possibly see in this scene, as this tower kind of looks like this one, is from northern beach of Bay Harbor, few buildings over from Dexter's apartment. So if the apartment is in the game, it's probably somewhere around this area. And then we have some unidentified buildings here, which are about 4 to 5 stories tall, and this building is the Colonnade Bay condo. And west of it we have the Indian Creek Golf Club, which in-game might be the Leafy Links, like in the original Vice City. The shape of the island and the main country club are clearly based on the Indian Creek island. This island also has several mansions, but we haven't been able to identify any of them from the leaks. And then this area is is actually in a blind spot, so we know nothing about this gray area. And then to the north, there's the Hollover Bridge, which is the bridge just north of the real Vice Beach, and it crosses the Hollover Inlet. And that's basically everything about the map. And the events are kinda boring and ambiguous. There is about 90 events labeled South Beach in the leaked event list, so the area will have a lot of random events. Ambrosia, a town in the center of the GTA 6 map. Let's start with the screenshot website, where we have a description of the town. Keeping Leonida sweet. The battle for the health and wealth of Leonida begins here. In the heart of Leonida, American industry and old school values still reign supreme, whatever the cost. The allied Crystal Sugar Refinery provides jobs, while the local biker gang provides almost everything else. So Ambrosia is basically a factory town, centered around the allied Crystal's sugar refinery. The town itself is mostly based on the real-life town of Cleviston, and the refinery is based on the Cleviston sugar refinery. And the name Ambrosia means food of gods, which of course refers to the sugar. Then, in the heart of Leonida, and this of course refers to the location, and Ambrosia is slightly to the right from the center of the map. So, where the heart would be. This could be used to determine how high the GTA 6 map could be, but we don't know if Rockstar has placed the town in the center of the map from up to down, or slightly above the center level of the map. But basically, the map won't be too much taller than it is on the current community map. And a map like this with a huge tumor on the top is not possible. And yes, the location of Ambrosia is almost completely accurate. Then, old school values still reign supreme, whatever the cost. So this refers to the fact that the area might be a bit more conservative, and possibly that the area might have some corruption. These signs imply that there are some kind of local elections going on, and my guess is that the bikers are somehow involved in it. And then the rest of the description basically implies that there isn't much to do in Ambrosia. So Ambrosia is located about here on the map, and this is what we have been able to map of the town itself. It's on the coast of Lake Leonida, which in real life is based on Lake Okeechobee. It's easily accessible from Port Gellhorn and the Starlet Motel from the west side, and there is a highway from the east to from Vice City. We can see Ambrosia in one of the street signs in this scene. So if we follow this road up north past the airport, we will eventually reach Ambrosia. Let's start with this screenshot of the Ambrosia main street. So first, here on the left, we can see a sign that says Ambrosia County Sheriff's Office, which most likely is based on the Henry County Sheriff's Office, because in real life it's located in Cleviston. And this sign also implies that Ambrosia is a county, so it's possible that Ambrosia is the county itself, and the town we see in the screenshots is actually not Ambrosia, rather called something else, but it's within the Ambrosia County. Then below it we can see some campaign signs, of which most are for Erin Henshaw, and he is supported by Allied Crystals, the large sugar refinery in town. And in this sign we can see that Erin takes part in a mayoral race, and at the bottom of the sign it says, "Finally a politician with balls." The bikers we see here are part of the final chapter MC. This building appears to be Henshaw's campaign building. It's based on this building IRL, and it was destroyed around 2020. The gas station is possibly based on this one from real life. This blue roof building is this one in real life, and this building is this one. All of these buildings are pretty close together in real life. And then this one on the back is based on this one in real life. We can see several different billboards in the scene, of which one is the Broad Allies of Diversity and Trades sign, which is making fun of rainbow capitalism, which most companies ditched in June of this year. This sign looks like a Waffle House sign. However, it might not be a sign for a waffle restaurant. It could be something completely else. And this sign advertises used cars. And here on the background we can see a sizable hill. The scene takes place here on this road, and this is the line of buildings we see on the right side of the image. And the hill we see on the background is somewhere around here on the map. Then let's move on to the wide night shot. This building on the left resembles most the Orlando train station. However, it's not a complete match, so it might be a combination of several buildings. This building on the background is the Velabator trash burning center, which in real life is in Fort Lauderdale. so I'm assuming it's not part of Ambrosia, even though it is pretty close to it. And all of this in the background is part of Vice City, so it's not part of Ambrosia. And this water tower is a water tower in Sebring in real life, and it seems to be too far to be part of Ambrosia. Then here we can see a bridge and a railway bridge which crosses one of the canals. This is a dam through which water proceeds from Lake Leonida to the sugarcane fields around Ambrosia. And then of course this is Lake Leonida, and we can see the southwestern part of it here. Here is a dam and a lock, which is a combination of the one in Moorhaven and in Cleviston. This area here is a direct copy of this area next to the lock in Cleviston, and this canal or river probably leads to Port Gellhorn, and this highway bridge is most likely based on this one in Moorhaven. Here we can see a small oval track, which is most likely based on the Henry County Motorsport Park. And this here appears to be a skate park of sorts. We are not sure yet. These slides up here are not part of Ambrosia. They are way beyond the town. And here we can see some unidentified buildings along this road, and they would be here on the map. And most of these signs are the same ones we saw in this scene. And around here is where the scene takes place. However, we haven't been able to identify any of the buildings here, so it's kinda hard to place this scene accurately. But basically, the town center seems to be an intersection of 3 roads, and there probably isn't much more to it. So Ambrosia definitely is not a huge city, or even a small one. This is a baseball field, and then we can move on to the sugar refinery itself, which is basically all of this. The postcard gives us the best angle of the sugar refinery. This building and the silo are basically the same ones as in real life. They just lack the flag in real life. And the main administrative building is basically the same too. The main refinery building is basically the same, and all the small things like the silos are the same too. So it for sure is the Cleviston sugar refinery. This frame gives us another angle for the sugar refinery. We can also see some train cars here. So there is a train track that goes past the sugar refinery towards south to southwest. And here on the background we can see same hills as in this screenshot. And this is the Port Gellhorn bluff, which separates Port Gellhorn from Ambrosia. And here far on the back we can actually see the Pocamar Bridge, which is in Port Gellhorn. And here on the foreground we can of course see sugar plants. And this appears to be the same canal as this one. And this here appears to be the Velapator trash burning facility, same as this one. So it is relatively close to Ambrosia. This screenshot has not been located, but we can see sugar plants on the background. So my guess is that it is close to the sugar refinery. And then we have this screenshot. And this car wash is based on the real life Cleviston Splash and Dash car wash. So it's probably located somewhere around here on this road, bit further from this scene. Then the leaks. We didn't see Ambrosia in the leaks. It was only mentioned in the leaked event list. And the events were Ambrosia Farm, so there is a farm of some kind in Ambrosia, could just be the sugarcane. And then Ambrosia Tarmac and vehicle racing at Ambrosia Tarmac, which could be reference to this racetrack. However, in real life it's a dirt racetrack, so it wouldn't be tarmac. So I believe there is a small airfield in Ambrosia, or not. And there actually is, as now that I'm editing the video that you are currently watching, so everything we know about the GTA 6 map, we know that there's an airfield here on the map. And it's seen in the postcard. And if you're actually hearing this, comment. I'm commenting this to make everyone else confused. Then, many people have claimed that Ambrosia is Orlando, mostly because of the train station. Definitely not completely. This screenshot of Cal could take place in Ambrosia, and this TV screen might take place in Ambrosia. These locations are located in Orlando in real life. However, Rockstar could have brought them close to Ambrosia to make the town a combination of Cleviston and the theme parks of Orlando. However, I believe there will not be a Disney World or something, just these minigolf things. Or the minigolf places could be located north of the Lake Leonida. This is all just speculation. Leonida Keys are another key location on the GTA 6 map. They are based on the real-life Florida Keys, which are located on the southern tip of Florida. Firstly, let's begin with the GTA 6 website, which has a description for Leonida Keys. Gateway to Paradise. This could mean that Leonida Keys is the gateway to Leonida, and likely it's the gateway for drugs to Leonida, as Florida Keys have been a part of several smuggling operations from South America to the United States of America. Or I could be completely wrong about this, and it could just mean that Gateway to Paradise, I don't fucking know. Leonida Keys are kind of like a paradise. The dress code is casual, and the bars are loaded. Life in this tropical archipelago isn't flashy, but it's easy. You are right on the doorstep of some of the most beautiful and dangerous waters in all of America. So Leonida Keys are this very casual and relaxed area with possibly a lot of old people. And of course, this is for the normal person, as what we will probably be doing here as Jason and Lucia is probably smuggling drugs. And that's probably what makes the waters so dangerous. Or it's just the sharks. The Keys seem to be an important early game location, as it seems that our first safe house will be at the Keys, and it's likely that we will be limited to just Key Lento or the Keys at the start of the game, and Key Lento is this island, more about that later. It would of course make sense to limit the access of the player to a small area at the start of the game, so that they don't wander off too far. Rockstar could use the Conch Republic to limit the access of the player. Basically, Key West and the other keys claimed independence in 1982 because the US government was restricting access to the Keys by blocking the bridges and making roadblocks in order to stop drug trafficking into the United States. And you know who is doing some drug trafficking? Jason. This is supported by the fact that there is a Conch Republic flag in the game, but this could just be a reference to this being a thing that just happened in the past, and it might not be happen during the game. Then, of course, we know the person who has probably been the reason for all of this smuggling, and that is Brian Heder, who has been living on the Keys and has been smuggling for a long time. He lives on the Keys with his current wife, Lori, and he lets Jason live in one of his own properties on the Keys. And in return, Jason provides favors for Heder. So Brian Heder is probably this early game mission giver on the Leonida Keys. Then Cal Hampton, who also lives on the Keys, is Jason's best friend, and he too works with Heder. And of course, Jason Duvall lives on the Keys, and more specifically on Key Lento. Key Lento is the first key from the mainland, and it's basically a town. It's over 2 kilometers long, so several times bigger than Palate Bay from GTA 5. Key Lento has a lot of residential homes, some stores and tourist attractions, and even a few residential blocks. And the name Key Lento is still slightly speculative, as it comes from this shirt. But the island is likely called Key Lento. And of course, Key Lento is based on several in real life keys, such as, of course, Key Largo, Isla Morada, and Marathon. So anything from Key Largo to Marathon can be on Key Lento. And Lento means slow in Spanish, so the slow key, which is a very suitable name. Let's move on to the map. The first scene of trailer 2 takes place on the right side of Key Lento. Here on the front we can see 180 Pompano Drive, 164 Pompano Drive, 200 Pompano Drive, and 500 Pompano Drive. Holy shit, these houses are expensive. Few of these houses are yet to be identified. This 24/7 supermarket gas station combo is based on a real-life Circle K on Key Largo. Also, the surroundings around it are very similar, like the bend in the US one road. This building is David C. Ritz Booster Pump Station, which is basically a water infrastructure. This building's 843 Largo Road. This building is the Key Largo Visitor Center, and the small mall next to it is also there in real life. And of course, there's a bridge towards the northeast from Key Lento to some even more keys, but we really don't know much about them, only that they connect to Vice City, unlike in real life. Then moving on to this area, which is Jason's house and its surroundings. And unfortunately, and for some reason, none of the buildings around Jason's house have been identified. Or even Jason's house in real life. We don't know what's it's based on. This location was also in the leaks, so we have accurate coordinates for it. But we weren't able to identify any of this yet back then. only that it was on the Keys. But yeah, this is probably the first safe house we will have in GTA 6, and it seems like Jason and Lucia are doing renovations on it during the story, as we can see some construction materials in some scenes and the house improves during the trailer. So this is the floor layout of the house. A lot of scenes in trailer 2 take place here, and it seems like Jason has a pet snake and a pet iguana with a shirt. Then, the community map has a lot of empty areas around here, because a lot of these things are not identified and we don't have too good looks into here. But this area around Jason's house is full of houses, and of course trees, but mostly houses. Then, let's talk about this apartment block. It's interesting because Key Largo doesn't have any apartment blocks this tall, or Marathon or Isla Morada for that matter. So this building is actually from Miami Beach, and it's actually a duplicated building, because it's already in the game here. We saw it in the leaks and the trailers, so we know it's the same building. This is one of the first proofs we have for Rockstar duplicating buildings and just moving them to God knows where. So it's very interesting. Then we move on to the Rusty Anchor, which is based on the Caribbean Club on Key Largo. A lot of trailer 2 scenes and screenshots take place here. Interestingly, the Rusty Anchor has a windmill, which it doesn't have in real life anymore. However, back in the 1940s and 1950s, there was one on the Caribbean Club, but since it has been burned down. The windmill is featured in the movie Key Largo from 1948, so Rockstar probably included the windmill because of that. And here's the interior map of the Rusty Anchor. And as it's presented in trailer 2 several times, and it's right between Jason's house and Brian's marina, we can assume that it's going to be a major location in the game. But before Brian's marina, we have the real-life Jimmy Johnson's Fisherman Cove, which is a small holiday resort seen in this screenshot. And in real life it's right next to the Caribbean Club, just like in game. And then we move on to Brian's Marina. Brian's Marina seems to be the location where he runs his illegal operations from, with the help of Jason, Cal, his wife and others. Brian seems to have a biplane here, which can be launched from water. And it seems like the marina also works as a marina and has legal business, just because there is a fucking massive sign, Brian's Marina, on the roof of the marina. Here is the approximated map of the marina building, and the marina is based on Marina Club at Blackwater Sound. Then, on the west side of the marina, there's apartment buildings based on Florida Bay Club. And then a bit more west of that is this radio/microwave or cell tower. It was previously used by military, but is currently in real life used by cell providers to provide cell service to the area. Then, the buildings in this area are still yet to be identified. However, as you can see, there is a lot of them here, mostly residential homes. Then, this scene with Jason walking with the beer bottles takes place in this Bay Fair supermarket. And the small white hut is also visible in the scene, which is opposite to the supermarket. And that scene takes place about here. And then next to that is this apartment building, which is actually based on a building on Front Street in Key West. They have taken a part of the building and placed it here on Key Lento instead of Key West or whatever. So this is our first piece of concrete proof that Rockstar have been on Key West. Then there's this screenshot, which has the store and the whale statue, which in game is called the Wonder Whale, and in real life is based on this massive shrimp statue, and the whole area around here is based on the Rain Barrel Village. This scene where Jason beats up the shopkeeper also takes place here, behind the whale statue and the store. Then the western end of Kilento. We have several buildings from Madeira Road on Isla Morada, then the Isla Marina, and then we have a few more storefronts along the overseas highway. And that's a quick summary of everything we know about Kilento. So not everything, but most of the buildings and everything important. Then let's jump out to the sea. As we know that there's a lighthouse south of the southern tip of Kilento, and it's based on the Sombrero Key lighthouse. We saw it well in the leaks and also in this trailer 1 scene, but it was best visible in the leaks. And then all the way south here, there is a small sand key, which is visible here on the first trailer 2 scene, and at this moment is the most southern point of the GTA 6 map that we know of. Then the leak that we got here in the teapot leaks is located exactly here, and that leak contained coordinates, which we have used to get the accurate location of Kilento and the other keys. So the location of the keys should be accurate. And again, that's mostly thanks to the works of RLX, as he is a fucking wizard. This is the projection which he and a few other mappers came up with. So this is the key screenshot and scenes laid onto the map accurately. So this should be accurate enough, if not completely accurate. But then, west of Kilento, there's the shortened version of the 7 Mile Bridge, and the shortened version of the old 7 Mile Bridge. Then, the key on the west side of the 7 Mile Bridge is based on mostly Bahia Honda State Park. The Bahia Honda campground is located on the key, and it's basically a copy of the real-life campground. But then on the northern side of the key, there's this protrusion for another key, which has the Fat Albert blimp. The Fat Albert blimp is on Cacho Key, which is pretty close to Key West. The blimp is used by the border guard or the coast guard to detect drug smuggling boats. The blimp is visible in several scenes. We first saw it in trailer 1, and it's visible in the opening shot of trailer 2. Also, it can even be seen in some of the Grassrivers screenshots. And then west of the Bahia Honda Key, there are again the old and the new Bahia Honda bridges, just like with the 7 Mile bridges. Then on the west side of the bridge, there's a Coast Guard station here, which is based on a Coast Guard station on Isla Morada. We can see something here on the left, but it's yet to be identified. And this road probably leads to the Naval Air Station, as the road would be pretty weird otherwise. And then we get to talk about the Naval Air Station, which is still shown as speculative on the community map. However, it's basically confirmed to be there. We just don't know the orientation or the layout of it. And the main reason we know this is because we can see some stuff from there in the opening shot of trailer 2. So when we look towards Naval Air Station from all the way back here on the left, we can see the Bahia Honda Bridge, which we just talked about. So then the first building here is the Naval Air Station Air Traffic Control Tower. This is a radar in the Naval Air Station, and this is a weather radar outside the Naval Air Station, but near it. Then this tower we don't actually know about. Looks like a water tower or another radar tower. But then the very interesting part, which is this SFUFO building, SFUWO, which is a US Army Special Forces training building, I guess. But the most important part is that in real life it's here on the northern side of Key West, and you can only access it through Key West. Rockstar could have wrapped the Key West's in a weird way that this is actually coming from Key West, or they could have connected this to the Naval Air Station. Both are very possible, as it seems like that the keys are curving towards the north, unlike in real life. So basically everything is possible up there. And then in the leaks, there's a mention of an event about a gold bar heist on a Naval Air Station, which is probably this one. And then Key West is possibly mentioned in one leaked events as the Cat Mansion, which is the Hemingway home and museum. And yes, that's the novelist Ernest Hemingway, whose wife was Martha Gellhorn. And of course Gellhorn might refer to, Port Gellhorn. Rockstar has conveniently angled this trailer 2 shot in a way that we don't see to where Key West would be. So they are hiding Key West on purpose. So don't worry, it will be in the game even though we haven't seen it. It's once again time for another Everything We Know About GTA 6 video, and the topic this time is Grassrivers. And honestly, we don't know too much about this area, or really there isn't too many things in this area. So, Grassrivers are the swamps of Leonida, which is based on the real-life Everglades. The most well-known part of Grassrivers is in the southern end of Leonida. However, we cannot be sure if it's limited to this area only, as it can extend in the southern west area and even into the central areas of the map. And the county in which Grassrivers are located mostly is Mariana County, which is based on the real-life Monroe County. And of course, parts of it extend to the Wisedale County. The Grassrivers is a home to a large variety of animals and birds, such as the flamingo, cranes, deers, hogs, and of course alligators. And it seems to be a prime hunting ground for those who don't follow the law, as Grassrivers is probably a wildlife preservation area. And if we take a look at the GTA 6 website, Rockstar has provided their own description for the area. Welcome to the wetlands, the untamable jewel of Leonida's crown, which I don't understand what that means. Of course, the swamps are untamable, but I don't understand the reference to the location. Okay, it's a jewel in a crown, but how is there a crown of Leonida in the southern tip of Leonida? Probably Vice City, and Grassrivers is just bordering Vice City, which is the crown. Maybe, I don't know. Some English major, please explain this to me. You never know what lies beneath the surface of this primordial expanse. The gators may be the most famous attraction, but there are far deadlier predators and weirder discoveries among the mangroves. And what we are interested in here is the far deadlier predators, as that might be reference to the people who live there, or the ominous skunk ape, which in real life is basically just a swamp Bigfoot. It's referred to as that in the leaked events, and in game it's something Wolfman or something, as we saw a Grasslands info board in one of the leaks. This was located in Vice City, probably in a storage of some sorts, and it contains an energy pyramid of the Grassrivers. At the bottom there are plants and mushrooms and nuclear waste, then primary consumers, so small critters, then the secondary consumers, like I think that's a bobcat, raccoons and large birds, and then the tertiary consumers, like big snakes and the alligators. And all the way on the top there's the human. And then there's a side note which probably says that the wolf human, what the fuck, skunk ape is threatening the human's position at the top of the pyramid. So the Everglades will be full of mysteries. And then of course the people of the Everglades are interesting to say the least. And it seems like most people there make a living off of poaching. And another thing that was on the leaked event list was a mention of Everglades fracking, so a natural gas extraction project, which is illegal in the state of Florida, and of course even more illegal in the Everglades. Trying to place the screenshots and the scenes on the map is pretty hard, as swamp kind of looks like the same everywhere. So this one obviously we have no fucking idea where this is. It has an airport, which is cool. Then this one, the same thing. An airboat, a stilt house, and something white in the background, maybe a building. And the ground looks a bit more solid, so this is probably a bit more closer to the city or one of the highways. Oh, and of course, these people also smuggle drugs, or are on the receiving end of the smuggling of the drugs. As on the right you can see drugs. Then this trailer one scene, we have no fucking idea where this is. And same with this one, but with flamingos. And then these two scenes with the helicopter. This scene is likely heading south, and it crosses this highway. So this scene is probably on the northern side of the highway, and this is probably on the southern side of the highway. And from this we can see that there is a highway going through the Everglades. So the Everglades do continue a bit more to the north than shown on the Janis's map. And you can see a pier here. So there is some kind of stuff on the Everglades, even though it seems like a barren desert with swamps. Then on the background of this scene, we can see the Fat Albert blimp, which is located on the Leonida Keys. So this scene is facing south, probably somewhere around here. And then we get to talk about more interesting screenshots and scenes from the Grassrivers. And we have this postcard. And this is interesting because we can actually see all the way to the Keys. As at the top here, we can see a bridge, which most likely is this bridge blocked by some islands. And here, we can see the naval airbase. Here is the traffic control tower, and this is the radar station, which are the same ones as these ones. So here you can see the distance from the keys to the Everglades, and it's not much. In the postcard video, we can also see a road here, and this seems like a shack and a house of some sorts. Possibly the one we saw in the leak, which took place in the Grassrivers. The leak took place in a shack, which had some plastic containers in it, possibly holding small animals. And outside there was a fence and something that looked like a black bear. I don't fucking know why there was a bear in a fucking pen. But the leak happened here, and it's possibly these buildings. So the location of this screenshot is maybe around here, looking towards south. Then the next screenshot is actually one of the Leonida Keys screenshots, as this gives us a decent view into the Grassrivers. And we can see a lot of water there, and of course parts of Homestead already pushing close to the Grassrivers. And here we can see the Flamingo Visitor Center, which is also visible in this artwork and this trailer 2 scene. So this is this building, and it's located here on the map. Then, let's talk about the one town we know that exists in the Grassrivers, which is Watson Bay, and we only saw it in this one screenshot. Watson Bay is located about here, and the location is based on the things we see on the background. It should be accurate, because RLX once again has done some bizarre shit. So the town of Watson Bay is based on the real-life Cedar Key, which actually is all the way up north, close to the Panhandle in real life. However, it's located in the place of the Everglades City, as Watson Bay is a reference to the Chokoloskee Bay, and it's by the Everglades City. And some Watson person discovered or did something at the bay, so it's based on that. But the town itself is based on Cedar Key. It's confusing, I know. So this pier or jetty or whatever you wanna call it is basically a one-to-one copy of real life, with all the same buildings. And this road behind it too is the very same road as this one here. Then a pretty wacky thing, as these two blocks are basically one-to-one to real life, however they are just mirrored. So this is the fire station in game, it's at the right side of the two blocks, but in real life it's at the left side. So everything here just has been flipped. And same with the area here, it has been just mirrored. And they have brought the water tower into the town from the outskirts. Then all the way back here, we have few buildings from this area of Cedar Key, with the marina and few of these houses. And all the way here to the right, we have a few hotels from the eastern side of Cedar Key. So basically, Watson Bay is partly a one-to-one copy of the real-life Cedar Key, with a few parts of Cedar Key missing. And this tower here on the background is based on the Shark Valley Observation Tower, which in real life is along the Tamiami Trail. And I do expect that there will be an airfield here, as in there's one in real life in Cedar Key, just a bit off from there. And my guess is that it's just left of this image, so somewhere around here on the map. However, I cannot be completely sure about this. It could also be based on the one on Everglades City, or it just could not exist. This is just speculation. But with that, I can tell you that we don't know too much about the Grassrivers. They are still a mystery to us, and probably Rockstar has kept some of the interesting parts of it hidden. Mount Kalaga National Park, the area of Leonida which many thought would not exist, as in real life we know that Florida is basically completely flat. However, Leonida is not Florida, so there can very well be mountains in Leonida. Let's start with the website Rockstar has provided us. Wild Wild Country. Room to breathe on the state's northern fringes. A national landmark up against the state's northern border. Mount Kalaga offers prime hunting, fishing and off-road trails. In the lush surrounding backwoods, hillbilly mystics and paranoid radicals live far from the prying eyes of the government. So first, Mount Kalaga is on the northern fringes of Leonida, so at the northern edge. And the controversial piece of text, that the national park is against the northern border of the map. Does this mean that Leonida will have a land border with the neighboring state of Gloriana? Well, not necessarily. It could just mean that the national park is at the northern coast of the map, and then Gloriana up north is just completely imaginary. Still hard to tell, but as we know that this area has some of the Mount Kalaga National Park mountains, we know that it extends all the way up north until the edge of Leonida. Be it Gloriana, be it the sea, or be it something else. And the text, room to breathe, implies that the national park is huge. Then Mount Kalaga offers prime hunting and fishing grounds. Hunting we already see in the screenshots Rockstar gave us. However, fishing, of course you can fish from a river. That's kinda given, but also from lakes. And of course, rivers need to come from somewhere. So we can well assume that there's gonna be a lake in Mount Kalaga National Park, not just Lake Leonida, which is based on Lake Okeechobee. This new lake could be basically any small lake from the Appalachians. So not gonna guess anything else about it for now. And then hillbilly mystics and paranoid radicals. So a lot of very interesting people in Mount Kalaga. And the paranoid radicals could mean the right-wing militia, which we saw mentioned in the leaked event list. Then onto the screenshots, which we have pretty few of, and even fewer from actually Mount Kalaga. Let's start with this helicopter screenshot. And we have recently gotten an approximate location for it, which is around here looking towards the west. So on the right side we can see a mountain, which is one of these mountains, and on the left side we can see this area and one of the water towers from Ambrosia. So Ambrosia is basically just left of this image. So this screenshot isn't really a Mount Kalaga screenshot, but I still have to mention a few things about this. Firstly, there's a river here under this bridge, which goes up to Mount Kalaga. And honestly, these mountains look pretty barren. I'm not gonna say that they are like the GTA 5 mountains with some more foliage, but it kinda looks like it. I hope we get actual roads along the mountain sides and all that kind of stuff, and not just useless hills again. And then of course, the location we have given Mount Kalaga National Park is based on the leaks, as we saw these southern mountains from several locations, both from Gellhorn and from Vice City. Additionally, in the leaks, Kalaga itself was not mentioned, however, an area called Red Hill was, and a few events related to it. It could be that Red Hill was the original name of Mount Kalaga, or the mountains up north, or Red Hill is a town among the mountains, based on the real town of Blue Ridge. Then next, this with some hunters. I'm not an expert of plants and trees from southern US. However, this doesn't look like southern Florida with trees and plants, which is obvious. If I had to guess, these are some kind of pines. Also on the background we can see some power lines. So again, this is not in the middle of nowhere. And there's a There's a squirrel here. Yes, a squirrel. Next we have this screenshot. And again, this screenshot isn't really a Mount Kalaga screenshot either. Well, it kinda is, but it's facing away from it, as this is the hill next to Port Gellhorn here. So this screenshot is facing south from somewhere around here. This railway is a continuation from what we saw in the leaks, as we saw a tunnel entrance somewhere around here. And in this valley we see should be the river or canal which connects the Port Gellhorn Bay to Lake Leonida through Ambrosia. The common consensus in the GTA6 community is that this area is based on the Providence Canyons, which I actually kinda disagree with. Like, yes, the rocks are kind of the same color, and this is a valley or a canyon. However, the rocks are not completely similar. The canyon is different, and of course in the real canyon there isn't a road going through it. Rockstar could have gotten inspiration for this area from the canyon, but it's not a complete 100% copy. Honestly, I really don't know. Then another very scenic shot with some animals and of course a cougar. Nothing much in the background of this, but it's very nice to have some variation in the rivers, as this seems to be a shallow stream. Well, actually this is probably another power line. So power lines, and probably a road along it too, so it's not just completely full of emptiness. Then this screenshot, which I can actually talk about you something about. First, Fox. Then a flood gauge, which doesn't mean that the game will have flooding, but it's possible. And a road with a water crossing, which is very cool, as we get to drive through it with a car. Wow! Then a kayak, which probably is a thing which we can do in the game. And then this bridge, which seemed to be based on this bridge crossing the Suwannee River in Florida. So this river could be based on Suwannee River or something else. Also, we can see the river go left into here behind these bushes and then turn right again to be under the bridge. So it kind of makes an S. And as the last thing, there's a small hut here on the cliff, which we have not identified. Then there's this screenshot with the people on the bikes. Not much to tell you about it. However, we have identified the building on the background. And it's this industrial building, which I don't really know what it is. And in real life it's located in Florida. And that's all of the screenshots. Then we have the postcard. As here we can actually probably see Mount Kalaga, which is this mountain on the background. And it's actually been identified, or at least that's what we believe, as it seems to be a Table Rock mountain from North Carolina. as the outline of the mountain kinda matches. And the river we see in the foreground kinda reminds me of the Linville River, which is right next to the Table Rock. This mountain could also be a Table Rock mountain from South Carolina, so it's either one of those two, but we can't be sure which one it is. But 100% sure it is from one of the Carolinas. This is supported by the fact that Kalaga means east or the sunrise in Cherokee language, and the Table Rock mountain in North Carolina is at the eastern edge of the historic Cherokee lands, so Mount Kalaga is more likely based on the Table Rock from North Carolina. Then the artwork, as this eagle is a parody of a real-life forest fire prevention mascot, Smokey the Bear. So very cool, please don't start forest fires. So we really know very little about Mount Kalaga and the surrounding areas, but it's nice to have some Appalachian influence, as we don't want the game to be just flat. That would be just stupid. Port Gellhorn is the second large city of GTA 6. So let's start with the simple stuff and then move on to the leaks and the more complicated stuff. And more specifically, let's start with the description in the Rockstar website. So here in the subheader, they say that Port Gellhorn is the forgotten ghost of Leonida. In real life, the area called the Forgotten Coast of Florida is located here east of Panama City. So the description pulls inspiration from this area, even though Port Gellhorn itself is not based on the area. Apart from the St. Joseph Marina, which we had an event for in the leaks. But west of the unbounded coast of Florida, there is Panama City, which has been a great inspiration for a part of Port Gellhorn, but more about that later. Then the description itself. Cheap motels, shutdown attractions, empty strip malls won't bring the tourists back. This description fits Panama City well, as their tourism has been in decline. However, it's not that drastic as described here by Rockstar. And Panama City Beach is still a popular holiday and spring break attraction. And there were several mentions of shutdown attractions in the leaks. But there's a new economy in this once popular vacation spot. It's fueled by malt liquor, painkillers, and truck stop energy drinks. Jump on a dirt bike and hold onto your wallet. I'm still not sure what this means, but most likely this description is referring to drug running or smash and dash robbing. All of these substances are things that can be used to enhance illicit activities by reducing stress and pain while committing acts of crime. Holding onto a wallet is probably what the victims need to do if this is about smash and dash robberies. I myself lean more into the drug running theory. So now we have a good tone for the city. Much more gritty and dark than Vice City and other areas of Leonida. Then this is the current map for Port Gellhorn, and it's located here on the community mapping project. This square is actually so accurate because we had a top-down view of the area, so we had a satellite image of it in the leaks. However, I'm not gonna show it because YouTube and Rockstar will touch me if I show it on YouTube. So, no leaks here. Up here, this small area is from the infamous Hank's Waffles leak, in which Lucia and Jason rob a waffle house or a waffle restaurant. And here is some of the areas we can see all the way from the waffle robbery area. And now that we have this postcard, we can see them from another angle. And here on the right, we have the Port Gellhorn Motel. And Port Gellhorn itself is surrounded mostly by hills and mountains. And of course the sea to the west. The area we've seen of Port Gellhorn is mostly based on Panama City of Florida. Additionally, there are structures and locations from across Florida. For example, from Gainesville, Tampa, near Fort Myers, and stuff even close to Jacksonville. But the main inspiration of this area of Port Gellhorn is Panama City. Here is a part of Fiddleumite's map, which shows all the in-game locations in real life. We can see that most of the buildings here are from along US Highway 98, and one location in Lynnhaven, and a few at Panama City Beach. This of course doesn't mean these are all of the buildings from Panama City, because we haven't seen all of Port Gellhorn. So there will most likely be a part of Port Gellhorn that is mostly based on Panama City Beach, but we just haven't seen that part yet. Let's just start going through the map from south to north, and more specifically, let's start from a bit of the east side. So in the leak, we can see that this area has elevation. So there's an uphill towards the east, and the west side is lower down. And we have an elevation for this motel, which is up 40 meters from sea level. So there's a steep hill just east of Port Gellhorn. And these roads have some kind of bridges on them. So we think this road is kind of in a canyon, so both sides of it have hills, and then it snakes all the way up to the motel. Here on the left we have the Port Gellhorn International Raceway, of which name we can see in one of Lucia's shirts. It's based on the real Sebring International Raceway, which is known for hosting the 12 hours of Sebring endurance race. And it's a FIA Grade 2 track, so it's a proper racetrack. In the leagues we can see actual curbs and runoff area, so it's a proper racetrack. It's not an exact copy of Sebring though, either because the scouters didn't know what they were looking at, or they have taken inspiration from other tracks. But anyways, the pit building of Sebring Raceway is located here. We can even see these fuel pumps in the leaks, and even this white building is identical. One interesting thing I have to say about the track is that it seems like they have made the track thinner from around this straight, because in real life this straight is on an old airfield, but in game it seems like it isn't. So it's completely possible that Rockstar just removed the airfield / airport and just left the track part of the area, thus leaving the straight here thinner. Also, it seems like there are these fake roads on the AI World Editor map, so they have been used as a template but not necessarily added to the game. However, some of them have been added to the Dubsos map, even though they probably aren't there in the game. So some of these roads like this or this might not be in the game. And this building is the Wine County Motorsports building in real life. And if I had to guess, they have made it the main building of the Port Gellhorn International Raceway. Then we move a bit up, as here, right next to the racetrack, there is a track strip based on the Gainesville Raceway. Again, the Dubsos map doesn't do complete justice for the area. We can see an actual copy of the area, just mirrored in the leaks, with all the same buildings and all the same rows and even same colors. But this is the main drag strip, this is the feeder road into the drag strip, these are the grandstands, and the main or paddock building should be here. Additionally, in between the Sebring Raceway and Gainesville Raceway, we can see a parking lot, which is a copy of one of the parking lots in Gainesville Raceway. And then the last thing I'm gonna say about the raceway. This road that goes over at the I-404 is weird, and we are not sure if it's real, as it connects directly to the racetrack and actually leads nowhere. It seems like a strange addition, but it might be explained by some of the elevation that we don't see, as it seems that there might be some elevation change in the area from the leaks we see, but that's not displayed on the Dubsos map. Then we move on to this gas station. This gas station has a food mart, a thrift store, and a third store of some kind. Also, our first on-the-ground leaks take place here. From these leaks, we can see a large part of the southern Port Gellhorn area, as we look from the gas station towards north, towards a downhill which turns into an uphill, which peaks at the church here. We can also see the Parker Government Center and this interchange in its entirety. We can also see a bunch of signs and billboards and other buildings which have helped us map the map very much. Additionally, there's a one leak here in which Lucia fiddles with the door and looks at the ground, so it's kinda useless, but we can see a bit of the store. For example, we can see a Sprunk ad, some E-Cola bottles which have much more polygons than GTA 5 models, as we can see the wireframes in the leak. The gas station sign that we see in the leaks is very similar to this one, but instead of gas mart it has gas stop, it also has a quick shop sign which is based on the food mart, and it has a thrift store sign which just looks like it's made in Microsoft Paint. So all of these signs and brands seem to be just placeholders. So this is the quick shop, this is the thrift store, and this is a third unknown store. We can also see this poster at the window of the quick shop, which suggests student activity in Port Gellhorn. Then we cross the road north to this bingo hall. In real life, it's based on this Mr. Bingo. Additionally, the same parking lot is located north of the bingo hall in game and in real life. And then there's a Ferris wheel on the side of the parking lot, which is based on one from the Central Panhandle Fair. There isn't much else to say about the location itself apart from the events we have. Some events take place here, like an overdose event at the Ferris wheel, a single car hangout at the parking lot, and an easy score, so a robbery at the bingo hall, which can also be a cop trap version. And if you didn't know, we saw lists of events in the leaks, of which there were about 1,300. but many of those are labeled as NIE, which means non-interactive event. But we can interpret the names of the events and make conclusions from them, like their location and content. And Port Gellhorn has about 100 labeled events, which have the name Port Gellhorn or PG or PGH. Then here are some fuck-ass houses, which we know fuck all about. And then, a bit more to the left, here we have Seclusion Bay, which is located here at this peninsula. Rockstar has added a building next to the real Seclusion Bay building. They have kept the Seclusion building itself there, and the small paths along the trees which have been used by motocross bikes and ATVs in real life and probably in game too. This building is this old gas station, and all of these buildings are from this marina. So all of these buildings are on the same road. Additionally, they have taken these buildings from the same road and put them up here, where the pawn shop is from trailer 1, but more about that later. Let's get back to the buildings we were just talking about. And right next to the buildings there's a railroad, which goes from north side of the racetrack along the coast, up north to this train station seen in this postcard, and then it keeps going to the northern part of Port Gellhorn. But yes, this train track was seen in the leaks from the AI vote editor map, and it's really out of place in the game as there isn't a train track there in real life. And this road here seems to be an imaginary road, like I talked about with the Sebring racetrack roads. But I think that's the last one of the imaginary roads. Then we move here to the next part of town. This building is based on this building in real life, this building is based on this one, and this pawn shop is in the game. A leak actually takes place in the pawn shop and just outside the door. And in the leak on the left we can see this fence and this Burger King. So the Burger King is placed here in the game. And these two houses are based on these two houses in real life, which in real life are just behind the Burger King. This Burger King might be any kind of fast food restaurant, as one Burger King that we know of has been transformed into a taco bomb in-game. And in the leak here, which happens in the pawn shop, we can see Jason using the GTA 6 version of the Eagle Eye, which makes valuables glow. And this pawn shop seems to be a robbery target as there are several jewelry and valuable items in the store. And even a door which you can open if you know the passcode to it. Then I want to talk about this intersection, as it's completely identical to its real-life counterpart, which is this intersection in Panama City. The only thing that's different is the buildings around the intersection, and not even all of the buildings are different, as this building is the exact same too, and this forest above it. In the leaks, it appears they haven't placed the foliage yet, but that was back in 2022, so they probably have finished it now. Then, right here at the intersection, there's this sign, which tells us if we follow this road, we'll be going along the State Road 2 towards Pocamar Bridge and Chalktown. And Pocamar Bridge is based on Sunshine Skyway Bridge in Tampa, and in my opinion, Chalktown is based on St. Petersburg, but more about that later. Then, right here, on the both sides of this road, there are signs that indicate that this road is the I-404, the same interstate highway which we see in Vice City in trailer 1. And that road keeps going north and bends to the west eventually. But more about that later too. Then, on the east side of the highway, we have the Parker City Hall and police station. We can see these buildings relatively well in the leaks. There is a tall sign above the compound which says police, which indicates that there is a police station there, like in real life. Additionally, in-game, we can see glitching around these doors, which likely means that they can be opened, and they have the EMS services in them. So, this is going to be the main police station and fire station of the southern Port Gellhorn area. This police station is also presumably mentioned in the event lists, but we really can't be sure because Port Gellhorn might have several police stations. Then, the Hanks Waffles robbery league had Port Gellhorn police cars, but they were just reskinned GTA 5 police cars. Fortunately, this has changed for trailer 2, as we can see a single Port Gellhorn police car in trailer 2, which is this one, and it seems to have same design as Parker City Police with its white design. So, at least in the southern part of Port Gellhorn, the police cars will be white with blue strips. And keep in mind, while I'm talking about Parker City, it's basically part of Panama City, as cities work weird in the Americas. But basically, Parker City is part of Panama City. But back to the map itself. On the right of the city hall, there are some small paths up the small hill on the right. And then of course forests, which we can kinda see in this screenshot, as it's facing south from Mount Kalaga National Park. And this should be the bluff east of the southern side of Port Gellhorn. Then, if we move a bit back up north, this building is the Goodwill Career Training Center in real life. This building probably has an interior, as it has so many different ambient audio zones in it on the leaked AI World Editor map. Then right here is this building, which too has an interior, and we can actually see in one of the trailer 2 scenes, right here at the end of this clip. Hell yeah, we are actually moving into trailer scene instead of just looking at the leaks, which I cannot show on YouTube. You guys get to look at actual footage from the game. And then in the same scene, these 2 buildings in real life are the same ones as these in the game. And again, pretty much it's an exact match. And the trailer 2 scene takes place itself here on this road. And here on the right of the scene we can see some elevation, as it appears the billboards, trees and everything else seem to be at higher elevation than we are currently. So the I-404 runs higher than the US State Road 2, which is the same road that Bocamar Bridge is on. And if we go back to the higher elevation, we can first find these 2 buildings, which are these ones in real life. The bigger building seems to have 2 interiors at these storefronts. Then a bit north of these buildings is this pawn shop, which can be seen in trailer 1 in this drift scene. And then this fast food restaurant is based on this building in real life. And all of these buildings are next to each other in real life, so it for sure is them. Funnily enough, they are actually next to these buildings in real life. So they have just scouted this road and taken this part into this part of Port Gellhorn, and then these buildings from around those buildings into this area. So anything kinda coastal to the coast, and anything that's not directly connected to the coast is up here. Anyways, let's dissect the trailer 1 scene. So this is the pawn shop. Everything is same to real life, even this structure next to it. I have seen people saying that they see hundreds of these buildings while they go to work, so it could be anywhere. No, fuck you, it's this one. And of course the pawn shop has an interior, as you can see into it, and the door is open. And next to the pawn shop we have this smokestack and ruined building. We are not yet completely sure what this is based on. However, the best match for the smokestack is the smokestack in Florida State University in Tallahassee. However, we are almost completely unsure about that. It's the furthest match we have of anything in the game ever, but it's an option. You can also see the R and N on the smokestack, which is the end of Port Gellhorn. So the smokestack has Port Gellhorn written on it, and we can see it in the leaks. And the smokestack and the mill is located here. We think that it has moved slightly since the leaks to make space for the cell tower behind it. We can also see the cell tower from the chase scene of trailer 2, and that cell tower is located here. We don't know where these silos are, but somewhere around here in game. We already talked about this building, and here on the back you can see a substation. We can also see a part of it in the AI World Editor leak from above, and also a very small part of it in this scene. The substation is located here, and this cell tower is located within it, or at least that's what it looks like. We are still not completely sure about the location of that cell tower. And then on the other side of the road we can see these buildings, which are based on these buildings in real life. And this warehouse is enterable, confirmed from the leaks. And this VHS shoes brand is based on some fuck-ass brand from England, so I don't fucking know. And in this scene we can actually see 2 large pylons right here. We can actually see 3 similar large pylons in the leaks, which all go through Port Gellhorn. One should be around here, a second here, and a third here. The third one can be seen here in trailer 2, so we know where the scene takes place. And then these 2 seen as a drift scene are somewhere around here. So we have 5 pylons going through Port Gellhorn in a curving line from south to east. It's kind of weird that it seems like they don't connect with the substation in Port Gellhorn. They just go through the city. They might be connected to the Port Gellhorn power station somehow, which is mentioned in the event list, but no idea. Then let's move on. These buildings, no fucking idea. And then this area seems to be based on the boat ramp loop from northern Panama City, as this boat launch area is the same, and the loop is kinda similar. But it's kinda weird, as in game it seems like the area is just mud instead of water. So the water level has gone down at some point. We can see the mud here in the Port Gellhorn postcard. And this area is kind of a mystery as we only see it from the top-down map. Then let's rewind back to this scene. So these buildings on the right we already talked about. And these two cell towers are the same ones we can see in this drift scene of trailer 1. It's weird that there are two cell towers so close to each other. One might be a radio tower, that would make sense. And this circle sign should be around here, as we can also see it from the gas station leak. And we can see one of the large pylons I was talking about here. This is the same one we can see in this scene too. So it's the middle one I mentioned of the 5. Then this left side of the image is very interesting, as here we can see the Pocamar Bridge, which is based on the Sunshine Skyway Bridge. And yes, we are 100% sure it's the same bridge. So it is the Sunshine Skyway Bridge from Tampa, or actually from St. Petersburg, but near Tampa metropolitan area. We are still not sure where the bridge starts or ends, but it should start somewhere around here and end somewhere around here on the other side of the bay. Then if we keep looking at this scene, we can notice that this orange ball and sign are the same ones as in this postcard. And this building here is the same one as this church here. And of course, these railway lights are the exact same ones as these ones. And we can barely see this train station here. So, as this scene takes place right here, this postcard must take place right here, right above the choose sign. So this is the full frame used in the postcard. And we have been ridiculously bad at identifying these things in this scene. From the right side of the road, we have only identified this church in real life, which is this church, which is in Panama City close to other scouted locations. And then this train station, which is from Waldo, Central Florida. This makes sense, as Panama City does not have a commercial railroad station. So they have moved one they have scouted from somewhere else. Waldo is also close to the Sebring Raceway in real life, so they 100% have been there. And this building here is Rander's RB Shack, which is behind the train station in real life too. And then this motel is this motel on Mexico Beach, south of Panama City. And this football or soccer field is this one, and in real life is close to both of the churches we have seen in Port Gellhorn. And then nothing else here has been identified, but this is what it looks like mapped out. And this area does have some events relating to it, such as a multi-car hangout at the soccer field, probably on this parking lot. And then non-described events at the construction site and the train station. And now if we keep moving up in the image, we can notice that there is a railroad bridge, which is a drawbridge too. The best match we have for it is in Jacksonville, which I doubt is the real inspiration. Then up here behind the water tower, we can see a peninsula or a barrier island, which is almost just like on Dubso's map. So we predicted pretty well with the port. And then of course there is the port, which is basically just a mirrored version of the Tampa City port, as there are 3 port cranes and the pier is angled in a similar fashion. And of course there is a ship docked at the port. And behind the port we can see some street lights, which I assume are part of a highway, which I think could be the 404 or something else. So the port is west of the railway. Then right of the railway we have an oil refinery, which actually is from Alabama. It's the Vertex oil refinery in Mobile. It has very similar stacks and silos located in similar locations. Also, the Vertex refinery has its own small port, just like this refinery does in game. So this is very likely the refinery from Mobile, Alabama. This facility on the right of it is the Panama City paper mill, which has already been shut down in real life. We can see the main building and the smokestacks on both sides of it. It appears Rockstar has added or extended some of the smokestacks there are, as there isn't this many or this tall in real life. And then what would be just right of this image is the Sunshine Skyway Bridge, and this road here should lead up to the bridge, so it probably does an S-turn of some kind, or there is an interchange just after this image on the right, which then leads up to the bridge and Chalktown on the other side. We really need to talk about the lights, because we don't know where this building is in real life, so we cannot access it or get more details from it. However, we know where it's in game, so we know where to go as soon as the game launches. As on the background here, we can see the water tower, which we also saw here in this scene. And we can see some of the train lights here. So it places this screenshot around here. We think this building might be based on this building or this building in Tampa, but we are not definitive about it. There are 2 billboards for this location. One on the background of this trailer shot, so this scene takes place in Port Gellhorn, and one located here, which we can see in the leaks. Additionally, this location is mentioned in the leaked event list. If we move north from this location, we end up at the location for this trailer 2 scene. We know the location of this scene because of this pylon, as we can see it from the Hank's Waffles leak and the gas station leak south, so we can triangulate the location of the pylon, and this scene takes place next to the pylon, so here. Additionally, Jason and Lucia are about to cross the I-404 because of this sign. The east means that it will eventually end up facing east, which it does south of Port Gellhorn. And west, of course, it will head west at some point, which is probably right after Hank's Waffles here, and then turn towards the industrial center and the port. Then, this mini-mall is based on the Kalaga village square in Panama City. The building is shaped the exact same way. The sign for the mini-mall is basically the same one too. And here on the left we have the Port Gellhorn Roadhouse, of which we can only see the sign. This billboard on the background here says Real One, and this is another Welcome to Port Gellhorn sign, and the logo again is based on the Panama City logo. And then if we take a right from this scene, we'll be heading towards the Springfield Community Church. And the church has this very interesting overpass design, which we clearly can see in the leaks, and the church tower and the side buildings are also identifiable, so it's not a highway overpass as many seem to think. Then from the church there's a downhill towards north. On the west side of the road we have this building and this building, and on the right side we have a hill and forests. Then we have this car wash, which is based on this real life car wash, and this car wash is actually right next to the mini mall we just talked about, in real life of course. This car wash works as a money laundering business, and yes, it has an interior. Then on the east side of the road we have the Easy Inn motel, which is based on this real life motel, which is actually on the other side of Panama City compared to the car wash. And of course the motel does have interiors, as we saw into them in the leaks. And then of course here we have the Schlott Construction Company. The building in real life is located in Miami, however it has been moved to Port Gellhorn. We actually saw Schlott Construction Company vehicles in trailer 2, so they may actually play a major part in the story. And of course the building has openable doors too. And then we have Hank's Waffles. The building itself is based on this one in Panama City Beach, but the interior is based on just a random waffle house. And in the leaks, Jason and Lucia rob it, and actually probably everyone has seen that leak. Then there are some buildings here, then a fuel storage here, some buildings down here. This water tower is based on this one in Panama City. Yes, it has the text on it. And of course here we can also see the port and the bridge. And then north of Hank's Waffles we can see a bridge turning to the right, which is not the same road as the I-404. And in this direction we can see at least one smokestack. So the ones we see in the postcard shot are not the only smokestacks we see in Port Gellhorn. And then we have the robbery from trailer 1. This scene takes place in the Crossroad Park mini mall, which we just talked about. That's the known parts of southern and northern Port Gellhorn, but there's much more we know of. This motel, even though it's outside the Welcome to Port Gellhorn signs, appears to be part of Port Gellhorn as it's in the screenshots, under the folder Port Gellhorn. The Starlet Motel appears to be mainly based on the Economy Inn in Lothy, which unfortunately burned down. It is an amalgamation of other motels too, but we haven't been able to identify those. It's located here on the map, and it's at over 40 meters elevation from the sea level, so about 25 meters higher than the Hank's Waffles. It is along a highway leading to Port Gellhorn, and opposite to the motel there is the Alpha gas station and a taco bomb. These buildings are based on these buildings in real life, and this Gator gas station is the same one as this Alpha gas station. We actually identified these just before trailer 2 came. This motel appears to be an extremely important location for the story, as it's showcased several times in both trailers and the leaks, and it's also shown several times in the screenshots. So that's all of Port Gellhorn we have seen so far. But that definitely is not all. But there is still much more to talk about even in this area. For example, we can estimate what kind of buildings this area has. As we can see residential homes here and here, we can assume that anything that is not along a main road is basically full of homes. So anything along these roads or these connecting roads will be full of houses. And I would think we will have 3 diagonal roads at this point in Port Gellhorn, even though we can confirm only 2 of them. So one of these roads roads will keep going north. Then there are the events, of which there are about 150 shown to us. And of course there will be more when the game releases. I'm just gonna list some interesting ones we have, because if I list all of them that's gonna take too long. There are events for NPCs fishing on the coast or at a canal. There is a basketball field in Port Gellhorn, and there also is a trailer park which we haven't seen yet, a car wash somewhere, and there are several mentions of neighborhoods. Then a Port Gellhorn car fence, so presumably a person who can buy your cars that you have stolen. Then there's a motel called La Cascara. There is a clinic of some kind in Port Gellhorn and a power station, which might be this one, but we cannot be sure. And also a wastewater plant, which we haven't seen yet. Then Port Gellhorn beach and a bonfire on the beach, and a Port Gellhorn beach at a peninsula, which might be one of the peninsulas in this image. Then also a bowling alley. If I had to guess, it's this bowling alley from Panama City. Then Port Gellhorn has several events of overdosed NPCs. Then a mention of fishing store, a dock, and a river mouth. The dock probably isn't the same one as the big port, but it might be this one. Then there are these spiritual journey missions, of which there are 4. Then several trickshot events, and as they aren't non-interactive events, seems like we are the ones doing the trick shots. There are 4 events about tourists, and then finally, and unfortunately, dead animals, which are skunks, possums, and raccoons. Then of course there are these screenshots, which don't have much in terms of mapping, but suggest that much of what we do in Port Gellhorn is related to drugs. And then there's this image, in which we can see the mud girl from trailer 1. So it's possible that the Trilby Mud Club is in Port Gellhorn. However, the artwork for Ambrosia has a monster truck, which might mean that the Mud Club itself is in Ambrosia, but the people from there actually hang out in Port Gellhorn. And here on the background of the image, we can see a bridge, which could be basically anything. Then let's talk a bit more speculative. So take anything I say with a grain of salt now. So we still kinda have this area left in Port Gellhorn. There is a large bridge leading there, a highway from the port, and another highway from the east. So I would assume that this area has high concentration of people, and the composition of Port Gellhorn would be extremely weird without a downtown. So what could this downtown be based on? Either it's Panama City, which does have tall buildings, but not really a downtown. They could bring some buildings from the Panama City beach, but those are mostly hotels. Then of course, it could be Tampa, but that might be too big. And then we have St. Petersburg, which actually would make sense, as Yorktown should be here. And Yorktown and St. Petersburg are kinda the same thing, because town and burg mean the same thing, and Peter means rock, so then you have York and rock, which is kinda weird, but it kinda matches. So I think this area has a downtown of some kind. And I have heard some whispers, take this with a grain of salt, that Port Gellhorn is much bigger than we know of. I hope I didn't miss too much. Oh wait, have I even mentioned that Port Gellhorn is in Kelly County? Or at least we think that is. Okay, I think that's everything I know about Port Gellhorn. And that's it. Thank you very much if you made it this far. And you should subscribe if you want to see more content about GTA 6, even once we get trailer 3, and more info about the game. Also, like the video and comment if you have something to say. Thank you.